So yesterday I was invited to a roundtable discussion on the future of Warzone along with a handful of community members that you may know. Whether it be through gaming journalism, your favorite streamers, or some of your favorite YouTubers, there was a behind the scenes chat about the future of what's coming and what's being done with the Warzone leadership. In that, we learned a ton about what's upcoming and some big fundamental pivots and adjustments that we'll see here in the near and distant future. That's what we're talking about here in this video. For those curious, we also do have another video likely up as this video going up where we talked about how Modern Warfare 2 was confirmed, but like behind the scenes here, but on the record, so we could talk about it. It's a weird scenario, but anyways, check that video out. But in this one, we're talking about Warzone and some of the changes to be aware of that we learned about that are coming in the pipeline. As we go along, let me know your thoughts down below. What do you think of these changes? Good, bad, great, horrible? Let me know. But if you enjoyed the video, do me a favor, drop a like on the video, and if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button to stay there with all things Warzone, Season 2, and anything COD related beyond that. Whether it be Modern Warfare 2 content here coming into this upcoming year, Warzone 2 discussion, we got you covered here on the channel. So if you're interested in any of that, I'd love to have you in the community. That said, jumping into it, this roundtable discussion was with about like 90 other creators or so, between journalists, streamers, YouTubers, you name it. But our roundtable discussion included the likes of Pat Kelly, studio head at Infinity Ward, Josh Bridge, game director with Vanguard and Warzone, and Eric Beisman of Raven. Now, Pat Kelly, being the studio head at Infinity Ward, gave us a decent bit of understanding of where we were going to go with this year, because we were talking about some high level but also specific things as well. But it also let us know that we'd be talking about well into the future here a little bit too, with Warzone 2, which we'll talk about in a second. But what I really liked about here, how this started, was that for the first 7 to 10 minutes or so, they quite literally talked to us about how they know they dropped the ball. They know things were not as good as they should be with a launch in Season 1. They didn't dance around making excuses. They owned it and talked us through the process of how we went from that unstable mess of a launch to where we are now, finally getting their footing here in what I think should have been the stable build that we had at launch. But listen, I know it wasn't from the official COD channels publicly stating this or anything, but to hear that said to us from the very top, not just like somebody that's working mid-level or low-level development here on this, but from the very top, not passing blame off to another developer, not deflecting, but instead, listen, we know we screwed up, acknowledging it, owning it, and then committing to make sure that we're never going to be in that position again. That's commendable, and I respect that. I respect the ability to own those faults and then say, this is what we're doing now to remedy this and go further. But after relaying that, that's when we got to the really juicy stuff, because we got our first look at the quality of life changes coming for Season 2, mid-Season 2, and also a little bit beyond that. So let's start out with the Season 2 launch stuff, because not everything will be dropped here all at once, but there's some good stuff up on deck. Now, they talked about how we're going to see some traversal improvements, meaning that there's going to be an increase to that mantle height, plus also fixing some collision issues that we have with Geo. So that means that, fingers crossed, this should make things getting around Caldera a little bit easier. If you need to jump a little higher to end up getting into a window, you're going to be able to do that finally. So absolutely all for that. The gas mask, that animation will no longer interrupt when you're ADS'd. That is something that has gotten plenty of players killed in a gunfight coming out of the zone or going into, whatever the case may be. But I know that I've died to it quite a bit. Very excited to have a way to control this as myself, as a player, especially after they adjusted it where you couldn't bring out your tactical at some points and cancel that animation. So that's something that I'm glad we're going to be seeing an adjustment here to that. Armor plates, probably the biggest thing that gets me excited here out of these day one changes are these armor plates. This is going to be able to refill a full 100% plate of armor before filling the damaged bit. So that means that if you have, say, a plate and maybe a third broken off of your second plate, it's no longer going to waste that first plate filling up the 30% left or whatever of plate number 2 that's on your person. Instead, it's going to fill up until there's only 30% of a plate left, and then it will top that one off. So it will give you more up front rather than less, which is huge and can save you in so many different gunfights. Vehicles, there's going to be additional handling and a reduction in collision in world geometry. Great to hear on that regard. Parachuting, we're going to see improvements here, like being able to deploy them at a lower vertical height, which, if you're somebody that's played Caldera, is absolutely necessary. There are so many places where when you jump off of, say, a cliffside, it won't necessarily allow you to pull that chute because it measures right whenever you end up jumping that you're still close enough off that ground, but that forward motion can push you over a rock or a cliff below that and get you killed without being able to pull your chute. So this is going to allow you to hopefully remedy that and avoid those situations. We're going to see dead silence and the stun grenades being removed entirely from Vanguard Royale. Another huge bit of changes here with this as well. We're going to see that there's going to be a fix to the stuns in which aim assist now scales appropriately and will not increase aim assist strength when stunned, giving players that do throw that stun that tactical advantage as they should be given if you can end up managing to stun a player. We're going to see nerfs to the fighter planes and the gasoline canisters, probably in like an explosive damage radius change there, but we're also going to see buffs to the anti-air cannons. And finally, on day one, we're going to see the final circle less likely to end on peak. So their big thing here with this is that they wanted to remove as many extreme verticality gunfights, especially when there's not a lot of cover one way or the other. So peak was a heavy villain in that sort of theology behind design, so nice to see that changed as well. But that's day one changes coming with season 2. A little down the line though, we do have even more cool ones coming either shortly thereafter or with the mid-season update, in which one of those includes your ability to control how you're resurrected when downed. So if you get rezzed, you can either choose to be proned or crouched. You can go into immediately one of those. So if it's more advantageous to go into a prone immediately, you can get resurrected and stay down so that you can end up maybe say dodging cover fire coming towards you and your teammate that just rezzed you. As for gas masks, we're going to see even more adjustments here to this where you're going to have the ability to drop a gas mask. So if your teammate needs one more than you can drop them one and allow them to pick it up. And finally, armor, that's going to be seeing another adjustment here at this where you're going to have the option to pick up more armor pieces from other armor satchels. So previously, if you ended up killing an enemy with satchel, you already had a satchel, but your teammates say took those extra plates that drop on the ground, well, you wouldn't be able to get anything because those armor plates that you could pick up if you ended up having the ability to swap out that armor satchel, you couldn't do that. So you just got stuck with nothing. That's going to be changing here with this mid-season update, and that is a huge change. So honestly, some really big stuff in that regard, but then we got to the hot topic, hot button issues here with this, which don't necessarily reflect what's coming with Season 2 and Season 2.5 and beyond, but instead were clarifications of topics that the communities wanted answers for quite some time. Those being the FOV slider and the Xbox X at 120 Hz. Now, if you followed either of these discussions, those are big problems right now because they're lacking in both of those topics. There is no FOV slider for console. Xbox Series X isn't outputting at 120 Hz. So why is that? Firstly, let's talk about the FOV slider because this is unfortunately a disappointing answer for those that are hoping for it. And to me, kind of all but confirms that we won't be seeing an FOV slider until at least Warzone 2 comes sometime next year. Now, FOV slider, as they described, just comes down to technical limitations with Modern Warfare 2019's base application. That's something that built when it was for the systems that they used in place. Yes, we've seen an FOV slider with Black Ops Cold War. Yes, we've seen an FOV slider with Call of Duty Vanguard on the same sort of modified Modern Warfare 2019 engine. So why couldn't we do that then retroactively? Well, it just wasn't in the cards from the very beginning, which is unfortunate, but it's something that they state that they can't quite implement without sacrificing the integrity of the base game. As in, you'd start to experience massive frame loss if you were to add an FOV slider onto console. Now, that's something that for PC has been a large topic of discussion, that sometimes you even gain FPS whenever you change your FOV. But listen, I am not going to pretend that I know anything about game engineering, but that was the information that we were given. I've also seen that some developers have chimed in that it also starts to destroy the visibility, whereas player models could actually disappear with certain FOV on console, just the way that everything is built out together. So right now, it doesn't seem like FOV slider for console is going to be a thing here for this year, and as much as I hate to say that because, dude, I will champion for you guys all the time, it seems like this is going to be something that's definitive for Warzone 1. So hopefully, looking forward to Warzone 2 come next year, we'll have this answered, fixed, and implemented for whatever that offering may be. But then the Xbox X at 120 hertz issue was something that I was kind of surprised to learn was actually a first-party issue, meaning that it's something that the hardware and the components aren't properly outputting on the Xbox Series X themselves. It's not something that Raven has any control over, and they stated that they were in constant communication with Microsoft to resolve these issues and to make sure that the consoles going forward produced and sold in the future don't have this issue going forward at all. So fingers crossed that gets fixed out here shortly. But outside of that, we really only had some discussion here slightly about Warzone 2 to some degree. We talked about this here in the other video a little bit more in depth, but it was stated that Warzone 2 would be coming with Modern Warfare 2, whether or not that means that we'll get any integration here come Season 1 in December or shortly around that time, or if we're holding off until a clean slate comes in and starts everything anew within March to April, that spring time frame of 2023. We don't quite know, but it is mentioned that Warzone 2, the next iteration, is being developed from the ground up and is going to be something that has the standalone vision of Warzone set in its mind from the very inception, the very base groundwork of this game. So unlike Modern Warfare 2019, where Warzone was kind of a side mode that then was sprung to the world as a global free-to-play offering that then transcended Modern Warfare 2019, this is going to be something that has the long-term vision, which is definitely nice. But that said, that's what we learned here about the quality of life changes coming to Season 2, the mid-season of Season 2, and also what we can expect to see for Warzone beyond that. So that's where we're going to wrap it up. I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback down there in the comment section down below. Is there anything in particular that you guys are really looking forward to? Anything you're a little concerned by? Whatever the case, drop it down below. But if you enjoyed the video, do me a favor, drop a like on the video, and if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Call of Duty. That said, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care, and peace.